Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. This is going to be a very special episode because I found the answer to a question that a lot of people have been asking and most of us has been thinking. What makes The Mandalorian so good? Clearly it's well written, it's well acted. This is a well put together show, but it has that magic that takes a show from just good to great. This show is going to have the power to capture a whole nother generation of fans. What is it? Now, a show has to have its core fanatical audience and be able to reach out to everyone else. I think the genius of The Mandalorian is that it found its core audience, deliberately or not, and was able to reach out and entertain the rest of the world as well. It's the same magic that the first series had. Plus that big, basically magic sound light room that they have where they can broadcast beautiful natural scenery on the walls and all that. But, all the technical stuff aside, this show found its core audience. But who is its core audience and what are they giving them? Because you have to find a need and fill it to be a good business model. And so The Mandalorian found a need and filled it. It's a Western, it's a science fantasy, it's everything that the others were, but it's also something more. Now, to answer this, I'm going to have to give you a bit of embarrassing backstory. I don't know why I'm embarrassed about it. It's perfectly natural, but I have been a fangirl for a long time, and I have written fan fiction for a long time. I started out the usual just scribbling stuff when I was a kid, but I read so much I'd knock back book after book after book. I didn't really have time to be a prolific fan fiction author until after college. You see, after I got out of college, I realized that 2 years after college, I had completely lost the ability to write a paragraph that was not a technical scientific report. And I tried to sit down and make myself write because creative writing was always one of my dreams, but all by myself, I just could not muster up the mental effort to do it. Then I discovered the fanfiction writing community. One desperate day when my favorite show was not going to be released for a couple of hours, and I was just desperate for any new material. I stumbled onto, I believe it was Daughter of Mayu. If you're out there and you're hearing this, you jump-started my writing career, thank you. I read her work and I got into the community. I have met some amazing friends in this community, but the main reason I was here was to get basically free feedback for my writing skills. I needed my writing to be edited, and I needed something to keep me interested. So I entered this community, I made some awesome friends, and as in when you enter any community, you're going to find your own level, you're going to find your own people even within the community. And within the science fiction, fan fiction community, I did find my own community. We weren't a very large community, but we were quiet, we were happy, we didn't seem to suffer from any of the vicious backbiting that seems to have infested some members of the community. We were happy. We were the fix-it community. We would take something horrible that had happened in the tragedy and we'd alter things slightly so that there was a happy ending. We never just erased the bad things that had happened. There wouldn't be any point to that. We took these horrible situations and we made the characters make slightly better decisions, and one step at a time pull them up out of the hole that they dug for themselves. We would create little side worlds of OCs so they would have nice, comfortable, happy places to go home to. But it didn't alter the main part of the story. We would say, realistically, how could this have turned out better? These are called fix-it stories. They're very popular, especially among a group of slightly older fans, people who are calmer, people who understand that the world is a bad and dangerous place sometimes, but who still want that happy ending. It's fiction after all. As Tolkien said, we go to fantasy for escapism. So, this is the community that I've been a part of. Now, over the past decade or so, the community that I've been in the community has aged, as it does. We always accept new members, but always this community has averaged a bit older than usual. In fact, we are probably the core Star Wars demographic. The children who grew up playing with our Millennium Falcon toys, who worshipped Han, Luke, and Leia. This is us. We kind of belong to the right age group for that core Star Wars demographic. And I think that this fix-it community, is kind of the core audience that The Mandalorian is going for. They take an OC, a character that is kind of on the edges of the plot, and he has made the main character, the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, he's a fallen character as much as Anakin was, as much as any of the worst Jedi were during the Clone Wars. He's made mistakes. He's got blood on his hands. But his tragedy hasn't culminated yet. He hasn't gone too far. And slowly over the course of The Mandalorian, he starts to make better decisions. And he has all of these side quests that he goes on where he makes friends. And there are these little scenes of domestic happiness where the people have made the right decisions and they've built little enclaves of domestic happiness. The frog, Mr. and Mrs. Frog with their baby, where he could leave Baby Yoda to be babysat. Navarro was just slowly picking itself up and turning itself into a nice, clean place where not only markets and families and schools can exist, but nature itself is recovering with the little lava otters coming out of the lava tubes and taking their place on the surface again. You have a fallen character who is building a happy ending, not by destroying a weapon, not by going and shooting up a base, but by slowly, one step at a time, making more and more better choices. He's becoming a better person. He's building his own happy ending rather than depending on one big sweep of fate to build it for him. That is what this is doing. And I think the reason why I can see this pattern, this link between our little corner of the fandom and what's going on in canon right now is I checked my age against the creators, and it was like something of a shock. I'm not quite as old as Filoni and Favreau, not quite. But they are the exact same age as my older sister and oldest cousins. Favreau and Filoni, the creators, the people who get hired by the big companies to do the big jobs, I'm that age now, which was a bit of a shock, but they grew up in the same era that I did. They had the same toys, they watched the same movies, they loved the same characters, and they wanted the same things too. And like the other writers, they knew that they couldn't fix the main continuity. The tragedy had to happen. It was a tragedy. The tragedy had to exist. So they created a side world, these little pockets of happy endings, of places where people made the right choices and did the morally right thing and didn't fall to the dark side. Or if they fell, they clawed themselves out of that hole they had dug for themselves. And I think that is the secret of The Mandalorian. That is the base. The people who wanted a happy ending but understood enough about the creative process to know that you couldn't force the happy ending onto the main characters of a tragedy. So they shifted the focus, and you're watching the tragedy unfold around these characters. But these characters, they're going to get their happy ending. They're going to settle down with Mr. Frog on the estuary moon of Trask and raise their little tadpoles. They're going to go to Navarro and find not a den of smugglers. They're going to find a school where the worst thing you have to worry about is the kid in the seat next to you snatching your space macaroons before you can eat them. They're going to go to a nice forest planet. They're going to seed their krill in the pond, and they're going to live happily ever after, growing krill and drinking that green beer. So that is the Mandalorian secret. That is the core audience that they are serving. Even with all the Flash, even as they add the Flash and the big space battles to attract the rest of the population and serve the needs of the general populace, they're serving that core demographic of 20, 30, and 40-somethings who wanted a happy ending in Star Wars, who understood that they would never get that happy ending with the main characters, and who were willing to go out and create their own happy ending. So, what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Am I way off base? Am I just seeing patterns where there aren't patterns? Because after all, that's what I'm good at. Leave a like and a comment below. So what do you think? Is The Mandalorian a canon fix-it story? Or am I just crazy? Peace out, my wonderful viewers.